A cold drizzle clung to the windows of Marlowe's diner. The morning, everything changed, but even the gray light couldn't dim the memory that would haunt the place forever. Because before the lawyers, before the bodyguards, before the whispers that made every fork pause in midair, there was only an old man with trembling hands and a young waitress who kept saving him in small, quiet ways no one else ever noticed. And it was on one ordinary morning, as she steadied his coffee cup once again, that fate began weaving a story none of them could have predicted, a story that would turn her life upside down the moment four towering men in dark suits pushed open the door and asked for her by name. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the impact of small good deeds, please take a moment now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kind Hearts Corner. Your support truly helps stories like this reach more hearts. Tessa Hart had worked at Marlowe's diner for nearly 5 years, long enough for the scarred counters and buzzing neon sign to feel like home. Life had never been generous to her. She lived in a cramped studio with peeling paint and creaking floors, and she was still drowning in medical bills from her mother's hospital stay the year before. But Tessa wasn't the kind of person who broke loudly. She carried her struggles quietly, tucked somewhere behind her tired smile, and the way she tied her apron a little too tight every morning, as if holding herself together piece by piece. The old man, Mr. Alden, started coming in about 3 years earlier. He always arrived before sunrise, leaning heavily on a worn cane, his shoulders stooped with age and something heavier. He never talked much, just sat at the same corner booth, the one under the flickering light, and ordered black coffee with exactly one slice of toast. Some days his hands shook too badly to lift the cup. Some days he looked like even breathing hurt. And every day, without fail, Tessa helped him. She cut his toast into small pieces, refilled his coffee before he had to ask, and sometimes slipped an extra muffin onto his plate, even though she knew it would come out of her own paycheck if the manager noticed. She never knew why she cared so much about this quiet old stranger. Maybe because he reminded her of her grandfather. Maybe because good people were rare, and she felt it in her bones that he was one of them. Maybe because even though she was struggling, she still wanted to be someone who made life easier for others. She never expected anything in return, and he never offered anything, just a soft, grateful smile that tugged at her heart a little more each day. But over time, she noticed the change. His steps grew slower, his breath heavier, his eyes dimmer. She started packing his leftovers carefully so he'd have something for later. She called him a cab on stormy days, even though he always insisted he didn't want trouble. She walked him to the door when the icy wind threatened to knock him down. And after one particularly rough morning, she pressed a hand to his arm and whispered, "You're not alone." No one else paid attention. To the other customers, he was just another old man fading quietly into the world. But to Tessa, he had become a piece of her routine, a piece of her heart. Then, 2 months before everything erupted, he stopped coming to tea first. She thought maybe the rain had kept him away. But as the days passed, a worry she couldn't shake crawled into her chest. She asked the cab driver he usually called. No one had seen him. She even went by the old apartment building 2 blocks down, but the landlord said the tenant in 2B had moved out, or been moved out, weeks earlier. The room was empty now, just like his booth. For weeks after, Tessa kept glancing at the door every morning, half expecting to see his familiar silhouette. But he never returned. And eventually, the world moved on, as it always does. Except she didn't. Something in her felt unfinished. She had cared for him, and he had vanished without a goodbye. She never said it out loud, but it hurt. Life only grew heavier. Rent went up. Tips went down. Her mother's condition worsened again. The diner's early morning crowds dwindled, and the owners started cutting hours. Tessa felt like she was constantly running just to stay in the same place, her hope thinning like the soles of her old work shoes. Then came that morning. The diner was almost empty, just the hum of the refrigerator and the clatter of Tessa washing cups behind the counter. The air was thick with the smell of eggs and burnt coffee. Nothing felt unusual until the door swung open with a force that made her jump point. 4 massive bodyguards in black suits walked in first, assessing the room like it was hostile territory. Behind them came 2 sharply dressed lawyers, carrying leather briefcases and wearing expressions that didn't match the humble diner setting. Every customer froze. Tessa's heart raced. She wiped her hands on her apron, unsure whether to step forward or run. "Are you Miss Tessa Hart?" one lawyer asked. his voice firm but respectful. Her throat tightened. Yes, is something wrong? The lawyer softened slightly. Miss Hart, we need to speak with you privately. It's about Mr. Alden. Her knees nearly buckled. She hadn't heard that name in months. Her mind flooded with fear, for him, for herself, for whatever this meant. They invited her to sit in the corner booth, the very one the old man once filled with silent gratitude. Suddenly, the room felt too small, the walls too close. Her heart hammered painfully. They unfolded a stack of documents, photos, and sealed envelopes. And then, with careful words and gentle pauses, they told her the truth. Mr. Alden was not the simple, quiet old man she had imagined. His full name was Jonathan Alden Whitmore, and he had been one of the wealthiest private investors in the state. A man of enormous influence, philanthropy, and legacy. A man who had lived humbly by choice after losing his wife and only son in a tragic accident. The grief had hollowed him, made him withdraw from the world, seeking small places where he could feel human again without status or eyes watching his every move. For years, he lived quietly, anonymously, until illness took its final toll. He had passed away. Tessa felt like the ground had melted beneath her. Her breath came in shallow gasps as she tried to process the weight of his absence. The tears came so suddenly she couldn't stop them. The lawyer paused, allowing her to grieve the truth she feared but never wanted to face. Then he continued. Jonathan had left a will, an unusual, deeply personal one. Because in his final years, he wrote often about a young waitress who restored his faith in life every morning. About the girl who treated him with dignity, kindness, and warmth when he felt forgotten by the world. The one person who looked at him not as a burden, but as a human being. He wrote that she reminded him of the daughter he never had. And so, he had left something behind for her. Not a trinket, not a thank you note, but everything: his fortune, his estate, his investments, his properties. Every asset he owned, a staggering figure that made her feel faint just hearing it. Tessa shook her head violently, overwhelmed. She insisted there must be a mistake, that she didn't deserve any of it, that she had only done what any decent person should do. But the lawyers assured her, Jonathan had been of sound mind. He had made this decision out of love and gratitude, out of a belief that kindness should be rewarded, especially when given with no expectation. In that moment, something inside her cracked open, not just grief, but awe. The universe had taken so much from her for so long, and suddenly, it had given her something impossible. A second chance, a future, a way to save her mother, a way to breathe again. But the blessing came with a burden, the weight of honoring the man who had trusted her with his legacy. In the weeks that followed, Tessa's life changed beyond anything she could have imagined. Reporters searched for her. Financial advisors requested meetings. People she barely knew started treating her differently. But through it all, she held on to the memory of the gentle old man who had simply wanted to enjoy a cup of coffee without trembling. She kept visiting his grave. She told him thank you over and over. And she promised she would spend her life using his gift to help people like him. People forgotten by the world, people lost in loneliness. She donated to care homes. She set up programs for elderly support. She opened a small foundation in his name. And in every act of kindness, she felt him close, as though he were still sitting in his corner booth, quietly smiling. If this story has touched your heart, please consider liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing to Kind Hearts Corner. Your support helps us continue telling powerful stories that remind the world of the impact of kindness.